catch my breath.
Joel Paulson and Daryl Vanyo are both on via conference call, just to let you know.
Good. I'll
Okay.
call the meeting to order. We're very pleased that Mary Williams made it here today. Basically coming from a hospital bed right to this meeting. You know,
Well, I sidetracked to City Hall for City Hall.
okay, good. Roll call?
Dr. Mahoney,
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn,
Here.
Mr. Grinberg,
Here.
Mr. Vanyo,
Here.
Mr. Rasmussen,
Here.
Mr. Peterson,
I'm here.
Mr. Campbell,
Here.
Mr. Gross,
Here.
Miss Williams,
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Here.
Mr. Paulson,
Here.
Mr. Mattern, Mr. Olson.
Here.
Thank you. Approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Item 2, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the order of the agenda, and I think you said, Randy, that item 4 is off. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right.
Item 5, administrative legal, admissibility agreement, MDNR working group, item 5A. John Shockley, detail.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Diversion Authority Committee. Before you have the agreement between the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and the Diversion Board of Authority, the City of Moorhead, and the City of Fargo. This is an admissibility agreement. Just a very brief background under Rule 408 of the Rules of Evidence that apply to federal courts. Discussions that occur during potential settlement negotiations are confidential, and Minnesota DNR and the Diversion Authority would like to form this working group as Mayor Williams, prior Chair Vanyo, and Chair Mahoney had met with DNR representatives to form this working group. This is the agreement that needs to be in place to allow that working group to conduct its meetings. It's a very simple, straightforward agreement. I can explain any of the terms of it, but it's before you, and as you would need to approve it.
Any questions?
I do have a question. After the statements by Commissioner Landwehr at the Red River Basin Commission Conference, which he said that this project will not be permitted by Minnesota the way it is there really a reason to put this working group together? I mean, it sounded like they just didn't even want to work towards a solution until the court decided where we were going. At least that's the message I heard sitting in the audience listening. So I guess I'm wondering why we even want to expend effort in this working group to try to move forward.
Mary Williams?
Yeah, I can give you a number of reasons. First of all, either way, however it goes, we need flood protection, okay? And secondly, what was real clear is when we went to DC is the Corps and the OMB at the time, and I don't know if they'll change it, with how that changes.
They did change it, people.
Well, I know they changed the people. I just philosophically will change. The Corps, I assume, will not. It was very important that we work with the state of Minnesota. And I think once we get the working group together, I think we'll get some information that will give us more idea of what was admissible to them. It'll give us broader ideas of what we might do as we go on. And even if we go on this, the group has already discussed things. So if the project goes on, right, we're going to be working with Minnesota in some way, either way, right? So at this point, there'll be discussions of things that need to happen anyway, and we might as well get going with them right away.
Kevin?
Mr. Thank you. And I would concur with what the mayor is saying. I think this is still an important group to meet with. there are some issues that they said, even in forming this, they said this work group might not be able to get through. But there are several issues besides the dam itself that are significant issues, and just being at the table with them is better than no discussion at all. And I fully support us moving forward with this group.
Just for the general public, wasn't it also an opportunity when Landwehr spoke and then Colonel Hawkins spoke, so the Corps spoke and said the project's going to go ahead? Roger didn't, I mean, it wasn't kind of strong on the Colonel's part that we are going ahead, and then Landwehr's was, well, you're not going to go ahead. In the middle ground, April Walker says it's a wonderful project. Isn't that kind of how it went?
That's kind of how it went. Yeah, Landwehr said the project will not be permitted as it's been presented, period. And
Mr. Chair?
Darrell, Daniel.
Yeah, a 56-page document that is produced in the findings of fact, we have never had an opportunity to discuss any of that with the DNR. So appreciate the fact that what Commissioner Landwehr is saying in terms of that it won't be permanent. But I think what we're trying to do is discover whether or not there's any misunderstandings and things of that nature in the 56 pages. So I think the opportunity for the working group to carry on the discussion is still very important, even though the statements have been made. We understand that. Thank you.
Any other comments? John, it'd be fair to say this took a while to get this working arrangement done, but it's done. And doesn't the group also have a meeting set up next week?
Yes, Mr. Chair, you're correct. It did take some time to get this agreement ironed out between Minnesota DNR and the Diversion Authority, and the working group has already set up a meeting date along with a list of topics and the attendees at the meeting. So we've really emphasized from the Diversion Authority's point of view that we would like to have an ongoing dialogue with them. They have reciprocated, and this is a mutual agreement. So it would be the legal team's recommendation to continue forward, at least having that dialogue with Minnesota DNR.
Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mr. Grinberg?
No.
Mr. Vanyo?
Yes.
Mr. Rasmussen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
no.
Item B, Executive Director position description is given to the members last time. We're supposed to give you any changes. John, do you want other things to say in regards to this?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any additions. I haven't received any additional comments regarding the description. If the Diversion Authority approves this description today, then we would move forward with posting notice of the position with the intent to start receiving applications. I believe Mike is here and may want to discuss his research into finding a firm that maybe can provide some analysis regarding the appropriate level of compensation.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. We have done some preliminary research on potential firms that could assist us in the selection process and also pointing the position description. I think there's a concern about making sure that we find a job description, obviously has been drafted by John, that's pointed correctly so that we're attractive to the marketplace. We want to make sure that we are casting a broad net. We'd like to see candidates from across the country, and we do believe that we'll be able to do that. Distribution is something that we're going to really pay particular attention to because we want to make sure that we get exposure on both coasts as well as other parts of the country that have experienced some of these projects and may have candidates that could be valuable here for our projects. So we're going to be working through that here over the next month, and we've got some good names and good leads of individuals we want to try to reach out to. So I'll leave it at that, and we're happy to provide additional status reports on this as we get underway. But appreciate John's work on this. I think our job description is a good one. We've had inputs from lots of different sources, and I think we've got a great job description to take to the marketplace and start to talk to candidates about. So we feel very confident. Thank you.
Questions of the two? Not going to have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Sec.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn? Mr. Grinberg?
Aye.
Mr. Vano?
Yes.
Mr. Rasmussen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Frederickson and Bryan Conflict Waiver Agreement, item 5C. John
Uh,
Shockley again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a relatively new add to the agenda. Frederickson and Byron is currently under contract with the Diversion Authority providing lobbying services in regards to Minnesota legislative actions. And Frederickson and Byron had approached the co-executive directors about the possibility of also liking to represent as local counsel one of the shortlisted teams. It was then forwarded to me to take a look at, upon review, their representation as in their lobbying division wouldn't necessarily represent a conflict with another portion of their firm representing one of the developers. Their Government Relations Bureau is a separate office in St. Paul. They're dedicated solely to lobbying efforts, whereas the rest of their firm is at different offices, and they would like to provide legal services to one of the shortlisted teams. That said, in order to undertake that sort of representation, they would need an agreement with the Diversion Authority, a waiver of any type of conflict. From a pure legal standpoint, I don't see there being a conflict as long as we have the appropriate agreement in place. As part of the agreement, they're required to create what we refer to in the legal profession as Chinese walls between the two teams that would represent the government relations aspect, which in my opinion is all public matters. So there's not really any opportunity for Frederickson and Byron to gain confidential information that could be utilized by one of the teams. And that office would be solely located in St. Paul, and the team that would like to represent one of the shortlisted bidders would be out of the Bismarck office or some of other Frederickson Byron's other offices. They have agreed to the appropriate protections that are in place to enforce that Chinese wall. There'd be separate teams. They can't communicate. They have to report back to Diversion Authority regarding if there's any type of communications. I reviewed this matter with the co-executive directors. They were okay with it. From a policy level standpoint, I don't know if Mike has any additional comments, but we were presenting this agreement for your review and potential approval.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and members of the board, I would just add that we were real deliberate in trying to make sure we understood the scope of work here to make sure that there could be no bleed over or overlap. I have confidence, and I'll let Darrell speak to this too, but I have confidence, given the lobbying engagement being as limited as it is, that there is not that opportunity to create problems for the P3 work. John and I talked about it. We feel confident that our waiver is going to provide us the protection that we need on the P3 side of the project. And I would just add that there is also a physical separation here that will occur, given that the Government Relations Office is in St. Paul and the other aspects of the firm. They have offices in other cities across the northern part of the Midwest. I feel confident that we're not going to have that contamination in our P3 process. So I would just also add my support to that. Thank you.
Any questions for two? Can I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Chairman, is this
Grunberg.
the only agreement we have with Frederickson, or is this a separate agreement? We have,
There is this engagement, this is not an actual engagement of them. This is just a conflict waiver agreement. We do have an engagement with Frederickson and Byron just for government lobbying services. So the reason that this didn't come before finance is there's no financial obligation involved in this. It's just simply they're asking for a waiver, and the agreement allows that waiver if it's approved by the board, or the board has to approve it, and wanted to ensure that waiver was consistent with our P3 procurement, which it is.
Chad Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chairman, there is no way
even in happenstance that the Diversion Authority could, however, in some way be brought into a lawsuit should this breach of confidentiality happen? Are we assured that's the case?
If there is a breach of confidentiality and it affects the P3 procurement, Frederickson and Byron has indemnified the Diversion Authority. So in the event of any type of breach, we would be able to bring suit against Frederickson and Byron for any damages that result therefrom. In analyzing the relationship, the type of information that is generally shared with lobbyists are public information, normally information that you would want shared with any type of elected official, which by nature is public. We don't share any type of P3 procurement information with them, and so really saw it as a fairly easy relationship to maintain just because of the relationship they're undertaking. It's not as if we've engaged Frederickson and Byron for litigation support or something else where they would be exposed to that confidential information. But to answer your question, if there was such a breach and it was caused by them, they would have to indemnify us and be legally obligated to pay us for any type of resulting breach. And feel like the agreement sufficiently protects us. There's quite an extensive indemnification section in the agreement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mr. Grinberg?
Aye.
Mr. Vanyo?
Yes.
Mr. Rasmussen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Finance Committee report, item 6A.
So, good afternoon. The finance report in front of you is just a summary where we ended up for the year 2016 as an overall program. $332 million was expended program to date. These categories represent the categories moving forward for reporting on 2017. If there's any specific questions, I'll go ahead and move forward on to the FY 2016 recap of the cash budget. Okay. On the 2016 overall, it was underrun as far as a cash budget of approximately $76 million. Some of the major underruns under land acquisition are associated with lands, diversion channel, upstream staging area, Oxbow-Hickson, and the wild rice control structure. Those were initially anticipated to be purchased in the 2016 budget, but the majority of that was not during that time frame. As far as underruns with construction, approximately $20 million, with the majority of that being associated with County Road 16 and 17 that was initially planned for 2016, and on Oxbow-Hicks and various construction projects. For design permitting, the underrun there is mainly associated to dollars that were associated and set aside for Minnesota DNR and some additional work-in-kind studies. Overall, with the project management, legal, and financing, there was a slight overrun to what was initially budgeted of about $977,000. That is predominantly associated with the additional P3 procurement costs and also interest and financing associated with the various bonds. On mitigation, utility relocates, and the retention, there was no cost expended during 2016 that was initially budgeted. So,
Any questions?
any other questions?
I don't need a motion on that.
No, it's just informational.
Cash budget,
I'd move item 6B, one request for expenditure to Eric R. Johnson and Associates, 145304.
is there a second?
Second?
Got to be like our slowest bill. Roll call vote.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mr. Grinberg?
Aye.
Mr. Vanyo?
Yes.
Mr. Rasmussen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Item 6C. Your committee as well?
While you're coming to the podium, sir, I'd like you to expand the approval for recommendation we made at Finance Committee yesterday. Had fuel sensors and flood wall coping, and this is a different change order than we looked at yesterday. We approved $6,000 and some dollars yesterday.
There's an additional handout, Tony.
So what was presented, or what was provided in the original board packet was an earlier version, and we since took out one of those elements. So I understand that there is a supplement in your packet that has the correct amount. That was approved yesterday.
So we had slippage on yesterday's finance committee?
No, so what went to finance committee yesterday was correct, which is what I'm about to present now. What the week prior went into your board packet, that's what changed. So if everyone, so the amount that you should be looking at is something like $6,200.
And I'm looking at 12,000.
Okay.
No, 6,113.80.
Oh, that's within
It's a
the,
loose handout that was handed out before the meeting. That'd be it, I think,
Right here.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
paper management.
That's right. Well, and I apologize about that. There was it was at a larger change order, and one of the items at the
Mine was
last minute,
packet.
we hadn't quite settled it with the contractor. There's additional work, so we pulled it. And so what's left is, there's one change order for today. It is for work package 42A1A3, the 4th Street Pump Station project. And you should be looking at, as Heather said, $6,113.80. This is for two items. One is for additional fuel level sensing in the generator fuel tank. The other is for a change in the caps for the new flood wall. And this change order has been reviewed and recommended for approval by both the Diversion Authority Technical Assistance Group and the Finance Committee yesterday. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn? Mr. Grinberg?
Aye.
Mr. Vano?
Yes.
Mr. Rasmussen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any other business? Mark, do you have anything to tell us, Nesbeth?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to say that on behalf of the Chamber Business Leaders Task Force, that we appreciate the continuing effort of this committee. And just wanted to let you know at our Chamber Board meeting this morning, we continue to rank this as a top priority and would invite members of this authority to join the Chamber on a trip to visit with North Dakota legislators February 9th. And we'll have meetings arranged with the governor and majority leaders out there. And we'll put that on our list to impress the importance of the diversion project. So.
Very good. Item 8, Commissioner Pipcorn.
I'll read the suggested motion. I move that the Metro Flood Diversion Authority meet in executive session pursuant to NDCC 44-04-19 through 44-04-19.2 for the purpose of attorney-client consultation and update regarding matters arising out of or related to the ongoing litigation matter of the Richland-Wilkin County Joint Powers Authority versus Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Oxbow as interveners, and to receive legal advice regarding the Minnesota DNR's decision to deny the dam safety and public water work permit application submitted by the Metro Flood Diversion Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We will go into executive session.
Heather?
My other started.
We have to first reopen the session. We'll reopen the session. Thank you. Just one item to know that we had probability of flood this summer or this spring coming up. There's a 50% chance we're going to hit 29.6, just so you know that that's what the probability is so far for a flood event in Fargo. So was there a move to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.